So if you play competitive Pokemon, you know of a Pokemon Showdown. On this site, every Pokemon that you choose is in a specific tier. The Uber tier being the tier with the strongest ones in the whole game. This one is usually reserved for your box art legendaries, your mythicals, and with some exceptions, some non-legendaries like Galarian and Darmanitan, which has an insane ability and an insane attack stat. So I decided that I wanted to challenge myself to get on the National Dex Gen 9 Uber Leaderboard with no legendaries, no mythicals, no Ultra Beasts, and no Uber Pokemon at all, which means that even non-legends like Galarian and Darmanitan are banned from this challenge. And you know what, I'll be honest, it was a little harder than I thought. So what team did I choose? Well, my team went through a good amount of change because I had absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into, but I knew that it was going to have Blissey, who can tank almost any special attack, and Dondozo, our resident physically defensive whale. But other than that, I didn't really know what to do. Now, at first I decided that my team should be made up of Corviknight, Toxapex, Alolan Muck, Galarian Slowking, Blissey, and Dondozo. My logic was Corviknight would be a good defensive one, Toxapex would be a physically defensive Pokemon, Alolan would be a good defensive Pokemon, specifically Mewtwo, so I could tank its Ice Strikes against the Mewtwo. And unfortunately, the rest didn't really work. Slowking specifically was a Pokemon that I thought would work because of Regenerator, but it just didn't really end up working. My whole team in general had a few holes in them. Even though my team worked at first, there were definitely problems with them, and I honestly just kept being out-power leveled. No matter the abilities or moves that I used, the Pokemon I was up against were just really strong stat-wise, so I ended up changing up about half of my team. At the time, I decided to change up my team using Clodsire and Skeledrid, and I thought that would work, but it didn't. It went through a good amount of change, but eventually, I settled on a team that I was actually comfortable using. That being, like the Blissey, Quiet Kid the Mega Sableye, Sloppy Toppy the Alolan Muck, your mom the Dondozo, and Pelipper. He didn't get a nickname. Now the reason I used Pelipper was that I needed a counter for Groudon. And you're probably really confused when I say that. But I needed a bulky Pokemon which was immune to ground, resistant to fire, and again, wasn't a legendary, a mythical, an Ultra Beast, an Uber Pokemon, etc. And I needed him to have access to default. And after a bit, I decided that the Pokemon I would use was Pelipper, that can take Fire Punch and is immune to Percipial Blades, and of course it has Defog and Roost. Its job was to barely survive and get a Toxic off, then Dondozo would deal with it with its Curse and Rest combo. And you'll see that it's not a perfect counter, but if used correctly, it can actually not do that bad of a job. The thing is that because of its base 180 attack stat, there is absolutely no room for error, and if I do make a mistake, then it's over for my whole team. At times, it even served more of a purpose than just a Groudon pseudo counter. And even though my team wasn't perfect, it honestly worked pretty well, with Sableye bouncing back hazards and Ferrothorn working as a good physical wall and getting chip damage off with the combination of Rocky Helmet and Iron Barbs, and him and your mom, the Dondozo, honestly just made a really good team. The Pokemon that still gave us trouble were Yveltal, who is a mixed attacker with Knockoff, Sucker Punch, Pulse, and Oblivion Wing, and Kyogre with Water Spout, which is just insane because it can 2-hit KO Blissey. But eventually, with a little trial and error, I managed to get the ball rolling. Finally got on the leaderboard. With the GXC of 69.9, I was aiming for 70, but I literally just, I couldn't get any closer, so I'm gonna take it. And with a record of 49 wins and 19 losses, and a score of 1542. I made it on the leaderboard, and it's not the most impressive record, it's not much, but it's honest work.